Welcome to the first ever Poorhammer SoloHammer Batrep. No budget, no skill. So this is Poorhammer with a champagne themed table and two very different looking Death Guard lists. So the first list is led by a Demon Prince with Plague Spewer and not wings because he can no longer have them. A unit of 7 Plague Marines, absolutely no upgrades at all. A unit of Possessed, 5 Possessed, and a Chaos Rhino for them to go into. And the second list is led by Typhus, who seems to have disappeared to the back of the table. Let's bring him here. What a wonderful paint job. 20 of his glorious Poxwalkers, 5 Plague Marines, no upgrades at all, and a fetid bloat drone with Plague Spewers, one of which has fallen off in its carry case. Welcome to the jewel in the Imperium, which is currently going to be invaded by various Death Guard warbands. This is the planet Seekler. You can probably work out why, and has a champagne theme. There are 3 objective markers, 1 in each of the deployment zones, helpfully provided by an espresso, and 1 in the very center of the table. It's going to be a very standard 9-inch deployment zone on each table edge, and probably most importantly, the dice are brought to you by Den of Amazon and are normally used for Perudo. We'll roll off for deployment. So Typhus will be the red dice. He has rolled a 3, and the Demon Prince will be the green dice, 5. So the Demon Prince and his force of the Wretched will go first. And we're deployed completely for this 500-point combat patrol battle, Death Guard versus Death Guard. The first turn will be the Demon Prince. I forgot to mention earlier on what psychic powers we have. He has got Putrescent Vitality, and Typhus over there with his Shamble Rot and group of zombies has got Miasma of Pestilence and Putrescent Vitality for simplicity. End of turn 1, and we've got some movement. The Plague Marines have stayed still on this objective over here, firing, double tapping into the Poxwalkers, taking out 5 of them or 6 of them. The Demon Prince has advanced onto the center objective and cast Miasma of Pestilence on himself for -1 to hit in the fight and shooting phase, although that doesn't look to be a problem for him. And took out 1 Poxwalker with his Plague Spear. And the Chaos Rhino has driven up, not advanced, just onto here, prepping and getting ready for the second turn to dispatch its cargo of Possessed and see where they go. The Demon Prince also failed a long bomb 10-inch charge into the Poxwalkers, although it probably wouldn't have been a great idea to get gunned up in there in the first place. We part way through Typhus's turn, and the fetid bloat drone has advanced up here and fired all of its plague spitters into the Plague Marines, taking out 1 with a couple of lucky failed saves, depending on which way around you view the luck. The Poxwalkers have made the charge into the Rhino after it was shot by the Plague Marines, which took off a wound, and also smited by Typhus, which took off 2. Typhus failed his charge in. The Plague Marines have stayed at the back on their objective, and now we're going to go into the fight phase. At the end of the fight phase, the Poxwalkers, 9 made it into engagement range, all attacked, 7 hits and 0 wounds. The end of the fight phase. At the end of turn 2, the Demon Prince and the Wretched have had a very successful phase. Smite onto the Poxwalkers, took out 6 with a super smite, rolling an 11. The Rhino has fallen back out of combat from the Poxwalkers. The Demon Prince's Plague Spear took out another 4 of the Poxwalkers, and the Plague Marines whiffed completely, hitting 7 times, causing 1 wound, and that was successfully saved. There are no charges. The Demon Prince has chosen to remain, and the Plague Marines have chosen to remain on their objectives. And at the end of the turn, they are on 2 victory points for the center objective and their home objective. Quick interlude here in the shooting phase. The Poxwalkers have come back using a stratagem, rolling 7 dice and 3 pluses, got 4 back. The Plague Marines got very lucky with their shooting and actually managed to take a couple of wounds off the Demon Prince, who, despite having hulking physique and suppurating plate, is now down to 3 wounds following the Plague Marines and also the fetid bloat drone shooting. Into the charge phase, and Typhus long bomb charged 10 inches all the way around the back of the Demon Prince, taking 2 wounds to Overwatch and the Plague Spear on the way in. The bloat drone and also the Poxwalkers were auto-in and are now ready for the fight phase. The Poxwalkers also have Putrescent Vitality, so this might be a real problem for the Demon Prince. In the middle of the fight phase, Typhus has just swung 6 attacks at the Demon Prince, and you'd think with him on 3 wounds, hitting on 2s and wounding on 3s, it would have been a done deal. But the Demon Prince made 3 of the 4 5-up invuln saves he needed to make, and he's still alive on 1 wound. At the end of the fight phase, it looks like this. Somehow the Demon Prince has survived all of 6 wounding attacks from the Poxwalkers with Putrescent Vitality next to Typhus, so they were wounding on 5s, or 4s, sorry. The Plague Probe did absolutely nothing, both saved, and Typhus is also down to 1 after taking another wound from the Suppurating Plate. And that's the end of the fight phase, so we're going to move on to the Demon Prince's Wretched turn. At the end of a very, very quick turn from the Demon Prince and the Wretched, the Rhino has advanced from its previous position up onto the middle of the table, towards the middle of the table. It has not disgorged its cargo of Possessed. The Demon Prince has fallen out of combat and attempted to smite Typhus. Typhus blocked that on a higher dice roll. Plague Marines fired into the Poxwalkers, managing to kill 1. Because they have got Putrescent Vitality, wounding on 5s, and were very unsuccessful, including a shrug. That is the end of the Wretched's turn. We're in the command phase. Typhus has brought back 6 more Poxwalkers using another stratagem, and then followed that up using the Destroyer Hive. On a roll of 2+, cause D3 mortal wounds, cause 1, and has killed the Demon Prince, who is now dead and gone, no longer on the planet of Champagne. That is a big swing for Typhus, who will now move into the Psychic phase. It's not looking good for those Plague Marines. Into the fight phase, and Typhus has managed to take out another 2 Plague Marines, or 2.5 Plague Marines, leaving the champion on 1, but didn't manage to actually wipe the squad. So the champion's about to fight back. At the end of Typhus's turn 3, we have got a big swing in the battle here. So the Poxwalkers are looking very pretty and safe on the central objective. Typhus and the Bloat Drone are surrounding a single wound champion on the home of the Demon Prince and the Wretched's objectives. The Possessed are still within the Rhino, which is on 4 wounds, and there's a full squad of 5 Plague Marines sat at the back, scoring points each turn. Moving on to turn 4 for the Demon Prince and the Wretched. Possessed made the short charge, only 3 in engagement range after the pile-in. With 12 attacks, most of them getting through and re-rolling 1s for the plague weapons. They've actually managed to wipe this squad almost. One of them was on a wound and died. Another 3 died on top of that, making almost none of their 5-up saves. This is what the battlefield looks like at the end of the Demon Prince and the Wretched's turn 4. Not that the Demon Prince is still on the battle. The Possessed have got out of the Rhino and charged over here, actually killing 4 of the Plague Marines. But there is very little left of the Demon Prince's force, and Typhus and the Fetid Bloat Drone and the Poxwalkers are all in a good position to score points in their turn 4 and 5 going forward. It's 4-3 to the Wretched and the Demon Prince currently. At the end of Typhus's turn 4, he's now leading 6 points to 4 and in a very commanding position on this battle grid. The Poxwalkers staying where they are. Typhus advanced, got the big 6 on the roll and came all the way forward to the middle of the table. The Fetid Bloat Drone did the same, putting in some shots with the Plague Splitters into the Possessed, taking a single wound. Plague Marine fell back out of combat to allow that shooting to happen. Typhus cast Smite, causing no wounds, actually. He failed to cast Smite. Now we are moving on to the charge phase. There are no charges. Fight phase, there are no fights, and that is the end of turn 4. That's the end of turn 5 for Typhus. Turn 5 for the Demon Prince and the Wretched. They've taken out that final Plague Marine after making a couple of successful charges. The Rhino didn't achieve anything in its attacks, and the Possessed unsurprisingly wiped out the Plague Marine. This is the way the Champagne flow stops, I think. There is no way back for the Wretched and the Demon Prince, and Typhus has won the day with almost everything on the table, barring his squad of Plague Marines wiped out in the last turn. So victory for Typhus, 6 points to 4, and a turn in hand, and that was a good fun game of Poorhammer SoloHammer.